There is a moment right before every transformation where almost everyone makes the exact same mistake. It feels harmless. It even feels good. It happens at a dinner table, in a group chat, in a comment under a motivational post. You say the words out loud. I'm starting Monday. This is the year I change everything. And in that moment, something happens inside your brain that quietly sabotages the very future you just promised yourself. Most people never find out what that something is. They just watch themselves fail again and again, and they call it a lack of willpower. It isn't. It's biology. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why the loudest declaration of change is often the reason change never comes. But first, you need to understand what your announcement actually did to your brain the second you said it. Your brain does not fully distinguish between announcing a goal and achieving it. The moment you tell someone your plan, your brain releases a small hit of dopamine, the same chemical you were supposed to earn through the actual work. Neuroscience calls this a form of premature reward. You have not written the business plan. You have not lost the weight. You have not left the situation that's been draining you for years. But your nervous system already tastes a piece of the reward because it registered the social approval, the nod, the wow, good for you, as a signal of progress. This is what we'll call the dopamine leak. Fuel that was meant to power months of unglamorous, invisible effort gets siphoned off in a single conversation. And here's the part almost nobody tells you. The leak doesn't just slow you down, it changes what your brain is optimizing for. Instead of chasing the result, it starts chasing the reaction. Which means the real danger isn't that people will judge you. The real danger is what happens to your own ego once they do. Once you've announced something publicly, you've done more than share information. You've opened a wound. Because now every person who knew becomes a silent auditor of your progress. A casual, hey, how's that going? Doesn't feel casual to your nervous system. It feels like a spotlight. Your brain, wired for tribal survival, reads social scrutiny as a threat, not so different from being watched by a predator. And under threat, your body does what it has always done. It floods your system with cortisol. Here is why that matters more than you think. Cortisol doesn't just make you anxious. In high enough levels, it suppresses activity in the prefrontal cortex, the exact part of your brain responsible for planning, discipline, and long-term thinking. In other words, the more people check in on your goal, the less biologically equipped you become to actually pursue it. You are not weak. You are flooded. And a flooded system doesn't build, it defends. Which is why the next phase of this process looks like nothing you've been told to expect. Nobody shows you this part in the montage. The version of transformation sold to you online is a highlight reel, a smiling person waking up at 5 a.m. with perfect lighting. What actually happens in the middle of real change is closer to grief. You start pulling away from group chats. You stop replying as fast. You cancel plans, not out of laziness, but because something in you knows that noise is the enemy right now. This stage feels like falling apart because, in a sense, you are. The identity you built around other people's expectations of you starts to die. An identity death, even a small one, feels like disorientation, irritability, sometimes a strange grief for a version of yourself you haven't even fully let go of yet. Most people panic here and reach back out for reassurance, which reopens the wound and restarts the whole cycle.
But there is one emotion hiding underneath all this discomfort that, if you learn to use it correctly instead of running from it, becomes the single most powerful resource in your entire transformation.
That emotion is shame. Not the kind that convinces you that you're broken beyond repair. The sharper, more specific kind. The one that says, this doesn't match who I actually want to be. Recent research into neuroplasticity suggests emotional intensity, including shame, can act as a catalyst that makes neural pathways more malleable, more open to being rewired. Your brain, in a state of heightened emotional charge, becomes more willing to abandon old patterns and build new ones. But here is the mistake almost everyone makes with this energy. They vent it. They post about it. They explain themselves to anyone who will listen, trying to release the pressure. And the moment they vent, the energy disperses into the room and evaporates, doing nothing for them. Think of it like a nuclear reactor. The power isn't in releasing the energy. The power is in containing it in a sealed, pressurized environment and letting that contained pressure do the work of transformation instead of the work of performance. Silence isn't the absence of dealing with your shame. Silence is how you finally use it correctly. And there's a specific length of time this containment has to last, or the whole reaction fizzles before it finishes.
6 months. That's the minimum window most behavioral loops and old neural pathways need to actually be broken and replaced with new ones. Not 6 days of hype, 6 months of near total silence around the process. Inside that window, there are 3 rules. Rule 1, no dramatic exit. Don't announce that you're disappearing. Don't post the "taking time for myself" caption. A dramatic exit is just the dopamine leak wearing a disguise. You simply, quietly stop showing up the way you used to. Rule 2, information starvation. When people ask what you're doing, you give them nothing sharp enough to react to. Boring answers, vague answers, just handling some stuff. Uninteresting on purpose, because interesting answers invite opinions, and opinions invite cortisol. Rule 3, brutal consistency. You show up for the discipline even when no one is watching, even when there's no applause scheduled, even on the days it feels pointless, especially on those days, because those are the days the actual identity gets built. Follow all 3 rules for the full 6 months, and something happens on the other side that almost nobody who skips this process ever gets to experience. You come back different, but not in the way people expect. There's no dramatic reveal, no cinematic reintroduction. What actually changes is quieter and far more permanent. Other people's opinions simply stop landing the way they used to. Their questions, their surprise, their comments, none of it reaches the part of you that used to flinch, because that part of you spent 6 months rebuilding itself in a room with no audience. This was never about disappearing to hide. It was psychological surgery, and surgery requires the room to be sealed, sterile, silent, so the wound can actually close instead of being reopened by every well-meaning visitor. The people who talk about their transformation while it's happening are still mid-surgery, wound open, narrating the process to anyone nearby. The people who go quiet, who vanish for a season, who give you nothing to react to, they're the ones who come back changed at the root instead of changed on the surface. The next time you feel that urge to disappear instead of announce, don't fight it. That instinct isn't weakness. It's your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do. If you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.